Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, you're welcome, and if you're an OG, thank you so much for coming back. My name is Nneka and I upload immigration and lifestyle content right here on YouTube. And yeah, you're welcome, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. As you can tell from the title of this video, I'm going to be telling you guys how I passed my English proficiency exam, in my case Celpip, and I'm also going to be telling you guys the guidelines I used to ensure that I came out successful in that exam. So if this interests you, stay tuned. Okay, so before we get into today's video, I just want to let you guys know that this is not a rule book that you must follow or you must adhere to pass your exams. These are just the personal steps or the personal techniques I used to pass mine. To make this video a bit easier to understand, I sectioned this video into 5 different parts. The first part is just the general overview of Celpip and what it means. The second part is my experience, like I always do. I always talk about my experience. The third part is going to be the tips that I used before the exams. I mean, my prepping tips before I went in for the exams. The fourth part is going to be the structure of the exam. What does the exam actually look like and what does it entail? And the fifth part is going to be the tips during the exams. Okay, now the first part, which is a general overview of Celpip. Celpip means Canadian English Language Proficiency Index Program, and this English Proficiency Program can be used for 3 different applications. The first application is for permanent resident, the second is for citizenship, and the third is for professional designation applications. There are 2 types of Celpip. We have the Celpip General and the Celpip LS. The Celpip General evaluates your listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills, while the Celpip LS just evaluates your listening and speaking, hence why LS. The Celpip General is only used for permanent resident application and professional designation applications, and it costs 280 Canadian dollars plus tax. The second type of Celpip, which is the Celpip General LS, this can only be used for citizenship application and professional designation applications. Celpip General LS costs 195 Canadian dollars plus tax. The major differences between Celpip General and Celpip General LS is what they evaluate. The second difference is the cost. The third difference is the time frame. The Celpip General takes about 3 hours to complete, while the Celpip General LS takes about 1 hour to complete. Their uses. The fifth and one of the major differences is where these exams can be taken. The Celpip General exam can be taken in only 7 countries, which is Canada, of course, India, US, China, Philippines, Singapore, and UAE. Why the Celpip General LS exam can only be taken in Canada. Okay, so now let's talk about my experience. After I was done with school and I applied for my postgraduate work permit, I decided to start preparing for my permanent residence application. And one of the criteria, one of the things you will need to apply for your PR is an English proficiency exam. So you can either use Ielts or Celpip, but I chose to use Celpip. I started actively preparing for my exams a week before the exam date, but I was just doing my research and gathering information about Celpip maybe 2 weeks prior to the exam date. Personally, I decided to reduce my workload at work within that week I was preparing for the exam, just because I wasn't preparing ahead of time, right? So I only had 1 week to prepare for this exam, and it was a personal choice. But please, you don't have to do exactly what I did. To each his own, right? You can start preparing for this exam way ahead of time, or you can start preparing for the exam closer to the exam date, depending on you and depending on what you deem fit for the exams. So you have to evaluate yourself and know what you'll be more comfortable with before you decide to make any decision like this. I used the materials online and also watched some YouTube videos like this, just so that I can get prepared and so that I can get like an overview of what the exams will entail. Unfortunately, there's no active Celpip center in my city, so I had to travel to Toronto to write my exams. So a night prior to the exam, I just flipped through some of the old stuffs I used to prepare for the exam, just so that I can remember and get my mind in place. Then the day of the exam, I wrote my exam. I was okay with it. I felt okay. I wasn't like 100% sure of it, but I felt okay concerning how the exam went. It took about 4 business days for me to get my result back. I think on the website they also said the same thing, that it takes 4 business days for them to evaluate your skills and send the result back to you. The highest score for the Celpip exam is 12, but when you're applying for your PR, the scores are graded, so you see things like 10 to 12, something like that. 10 to 12 gives you a particular score. So that's how they're graded for the peer application. I got a 9 in listening, I got a 10 in reading, and I got an 11 in both writing and speaking. So now let's go into the third part of this video, which is the tips I used prior to the exam. The first tip is I took the practice test on the official Celpip website. This really helped me because it gave me a general overview of what the test will look like on the test date. I had less anxiety because the exam looked familiar when I started my exam. So I think this is very, very important. So that's like the number one thing I would advise you guys to do. Use the practice test on the official Celpip website. It's going to help you a whole lot. It will help you a ton. And I'm going to be leaving links in the description box so you can always check it out whenever you want to. The second tip is figure out your weak points. Figure out your weak areas. My weak area, obviously, from my result was my listening and my reading. I will gravitate more towards the listening because listening had more of objectives, and for me personally, I found that the objective exams are a bit difficult for me because I can get kind of indecisive sometimes. I might know the answer, but when I have so many options I get confused, right? So I knew that that was my weak point, so I started to find a solution to solve that problem. So I started becoming more logical in picking my answers, right? I mean, I tried my best to be more logical, but you can actually see the impact on my result. But I tried as much as possible to just go for the first answer instead of overthinking or over evaluating the whole question or the options given. So yeah, just figure out your weak areas and work on that more. Not saying that you shouldn't work on other areas, but focus more on that area and try to find ways to make sure that it doesn't become an issue for you during the exams. The third point is use other websites, use other YouTube videos to practice. The practice questions on the Celpip website is very, very good, but it's very limited, right? They don't give you so many questions, right? So look for other websites, look for other videos that can help you practice more. I'm going to be linking the videos I used here on YouTube and the website I also used to practice for the Celpip exam. So I'm going to be leaving everything down below, so check it out if you're interested. Okay, so those are the 3 main tips you should consider while prepping for the Celpip exams. All right, now let's get into the structure of the exams. What does it look like? What does it entail? How many sections are they going to be? How many questions are they going to be? Things like that. So I'm going to be telling you guys how the structure of the Celpip exams look like and how many questions are in every section of the exams. The first part of the exam is the listening part, and it takes about 47 to 55 minutes to finish this part of the exams. The listening part of this exam consists of 6 different sections. The first section, which is problem solving, consists of 8 questions. The second part, which is the daily life conversation, consists of 5 different questions. The third part, which is listening for information, comprises of 6 different questions. The fourth part, which is listening for news items, consists of 5 different questions. The sixth part, which is listening to a discussion, consists of 8 different questions, while the last part is listening to a viewpoint, which consists of 6 different questions. The second part, which is the reading part, takes about 55 to 60 minutes and it comprises of 4 different parts. The first part is reading correspondence, which is made up of 11 questions. The second part is reading to apply a diagram, which is made up of 8 questions. The third part is reading for information, which is made up of 9 questions. And the last part of this section is reading for viewpoints, which is made up of 10 questions. The third skill you'll be evaluated on is your writing skills, and the writing skills takes about 53 to 60 minutes to complete. It is made up of 2 different parts. The first part is writing an email, and the second part is responding to survey questions. The fourth and final skill you'll be evaluated on is your speaking skills, which is my favorite part of this whole exam, and it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to complete. It is made up of 8 different parts. The first part is going to be giving advice. The second part is talking about a personal experience. The third part is describing a scene. The fourth part is making predictions. The fifth is comparing and persuading. The sixth part is dealing with a difficult situation. The seventh is expressing opinions, while the eighth and final part of the speaking skills is describing an unusual situation. Okay, so now that you guys understand and have a general knowledge of how the structure of this exam looks like, let's talk about the tips I used during the exam. I'll be giving tips for every part during the exam, but one general tip I want to give for the whole entire exam is don't skip. don't skip anything. If you have any free time, don't skip. When I was writing my exams, I made a personal decision not to skip through any time, even though I was done early. How the exam works is a particular time will be allocated to a particular section of the exam, and if you're done early, you can either skip to the next section or wait. But when I was writing my own exam, I decided not to skip. Even though I was done early, I'll either stretch on my chair, get my nerves back, do a breathing exercise, whatever you feel would help you release stress or anxiety or anything you're feeling during an exam. Just do it, just so that you are more relaxed and you're less tense. People skip through, which I don't have a problem with that. Like, if you're really sure and you're good, you're comfortable, you're okay, you can always skip through. But one thing that personally helps me during the exam is I never skip through any section. I made sure I waited until that timer says 0 and the next section comes in. So that's the advice I'll give. You can take it if you feel you need it, but if you don't need it, then you can just let it go. Okay, so now let's go into the listening part tips. The first tip is you have to learn how to abbreviate, and not just learn how to abbreviate, know what you're abbreviating. Remember what you abbreviated, because if you abbreviated maybe Canada CA and you don't remember, oh, that's what it means, you can mess things up for yourself. So know how to abbreviate, but also understand and remember what you abbreviated. Okay, so that's the first tip for the listening part for me. The second tip is you have to learn how to take notes, but learn how to take important notes. You can't just take any kind of note. Like, you have to listen to what they're saying and just discern the information you feel is very important. That part takes practice. So if you practice with the practice questions online, you kind of know the questions that you're likely to be asked during the listening part of the exams. Sheets will be given to you during the exams. You're not meant to bring any sheet, any pen, nothing, not even a bottle of water. Sheets will be given to you, so make use of it. I know people are different and people have different ways of remembering things, right? But I feel this is something everyone should try and do during exams. Some people don't like to write things and they feel they can remember every single thing. But you're not God. Even if you're very smart, there's a limit to your smartness. Don't feel like, oh, you would remember everything, because number one, you're in exams and you might get really overwhelmed in an exam hall, right? So just try and use the sheets that you've been given. So now let's go into the reading tips. The first tip I used is I never read the whole story or the whole article that was given to me. I never did. You don't have time for that. So personally, what I did is I read the first sentence of every paragraph and made sure that I got the topic sentence of that paragraph, and I wrote it down on the sheet I was given. When I get to the questions and I see any synonyms or I see any similar words that are in the topic sentence that I got, then I know that, okay, yes, this might be the answer. And it worked out really well for me, right? I didn't have time to read through the entire article, read through the entire story, because sometimes the article can be a bit lengthy, it can be a bit long, so you don't have time for that. Your time is limited, right? So that's like the tip I used. I also want to point out that some questions in this reading part might not be so easy because they are smart. They kind of twist the words and maybe sometimes paraphrase the word just so that you can get a bit confused. So sometimes, like, the first tip I gave you guys might not really work for every question, but for most questions it will work. So in this case, you will just have to go in depth to the questions and kind of like paraphrase the question in a way so it can suit the topic sentence you've gotten for the right paragraph. I hope this makes sense. The third skill, which is the writing skill, the number one tip I used is I read the question and I took time to formulate whatever I needed to formulate in my head first and wrote down the key points I wanted to build up on first before I started imputing my answers or imputing the words in the system. I mean, you have to be very, very fast with this part because you don't have much time to type and correct and do all of that. The second tip I use for the writing part is go straight to the point and make sure you don't exceed or go below the word limits that was given to you. When you start the writing part, there will be instructions. Yeah, that reminds me, make sure that you read every instruction. Make sure you read the instructions given to you before you start any part of the exams. So there'll be instructions given to you, right? And part of that instruction, you will have like a word count. So So for example, if your word count is 250 words, you have to make sure that you stay within that 250 words. But I know there's a grace, either plus or minus 20 words. I think so, if I can remember vividly, but always try to just stay within 250 words. So try not to go below 230 words and try not to go above 270 words. And yes, they count. Your computer has like an automatic word counting system, so you don't have to literally start counting every single word. When you're typing, after each word, the computer documents it and you can see it just right below your screen right there. So you don't have to literally start to count every word. The computer does it for you. But make sure you stay within your word count or your word limit. It's very, very important. Very, very, very important. So the last part, which is the speaking part, my number one tip is stay focused, because at this point almost everyone in the room is talking. Almost everybody is saying something. Almost everyone is in the speaking part. Even at this point, when I was writing my exam, at this point, so people have already even left the exam hall, but I was still there and some other people were there as well. The second part is try and be audible, but don't be too loud. And if you're too loud, the examiner in the room will come and tell you, oh, please reduce your voice, you're too loud. So yeah, try and be audible, but don't be too loud. The third tip I'll give is your response or your answer to every question must not be true. Like, you can just formulate anything in your head. I feel even formulating things in your head self is even way better. Your imagination is going to really help you in this section of the exam, because the situation they might give you might have not personally experienced it yourself. So you have to be very, very quick to formulating things and saying anything that comes to your head. You have to build your ideas really, really quick and making them seem a bit realistic as well. But everything you say must not be true. So yeah, you have to take note of that as well. And the last tip for the speaking part is don't stop talking if your timer hasn't stopped. If your timer is still saying, oh, you have like 15 seconds left, say anything you can see. Like, say anything you can see either in the picture or anything you can imagine in your head. Just keep on talking. I feel they're not really focusing on the answers you're giving per se. They're kind of focusing more on your communication skill and how well you can hold a conversation and how well you can build up a sentence, right? So they're not really focusing on if your answer is right or wrong or anything like that. If your timer isn't all over yet, just keep on talking, because it will give you more points and to give you upper hand compared to when you stop too early. Especially when it comes to describing a picture, you will definitely see something to say. If the man's shoelace is not tied, say his shoelace is not tied, mention it. So yeah, you have to make sure you use your time and use it well. So yeah, just take note of that. Okay guys, so we've come to the end of today's video. I hope this video was educative enough and I hope you learned a thing or two. Just in case you have experience writing English proficiency exams, please leave your tips down below so that we can learn from each other, so that other people can learn from your experience as well. And if you watched this video prior to your exam and you wrote your exam and you came out successful, which I pray you do, please leave your success stories in the comment section. I would really want to see how well you guys do. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video if you really enjoyed it and if you learned something from it. Share this video with a friend, family that you feel would need this video if they want to write their English proficiency exam. It doesn't have to be Celpip, it can be Ielts or any other English proficiency exam. Please share this video and also subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't subscribed yet, and turn on the post notifications so they can get notified every single time your girl uploads a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.